Heartwarming twist, bride abandoned at altar, amazing stranger revealed as hidden hero. Samantha stood at the altar, her heart racing with excitement. The sun poured into the little chapel, illuminating the vibrant flowers the townsfolk had lovingly arranged. Her wedding day, the day she had dreamed of since childhood, was finally here. Each pew was filled with friends and family, faces beaming back at her with excitement. The air buzzed with chatter and laughter, filled with the unmistakable warmth of their tight-knit Midwestern community. Jason, the town's charming star athlete, awaited her. They'd grown up together, and everyone knew they were meant to be. But then it happened. Jason took a deep breath, his expression shifting from joy to distance. The words that tumbled from his lips sent shockwaves through the room, "I can't do this." As the gasp of disbelief rippled through the crowd, Samantha's heart shattered. She looked around, searching for support, but everyone's gazes felt like a storm, a mix of shock, confusion, and pity. Tears streamed down her cheeks, each sob echoing painfully in the decorated hall. Love had failed her in an instant, turning her fairy tale into a nightmare. Among the whispers and gasps, Mark stepped forward, a rugged figure wrapped in scruffy clothes, with a past written on his face. Everyone had made judgments about him over the years, born from old scars and untold stories. But now, he moved closer, his eyes filled with understanding. "It's okay," he said, his voice barely a breath above the chaos. As Samantha leaned into him, feeling the weight of her heartache, something shifted. He became her anchor in this devastating storm. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The crowd began to murmur, movement sparked among the townsfolk. They saw not just a deserted bride, but a woman aching for connection and reassurance. Slowly, community spirit re-emerged as they rallied to help, turning the wreckage of a wedding into a celebration of resilience. Mark found himself at the forefront, encouraging joyful laughter amidst tears. Samantha watched in awe as the townspeople transformed her pain into hope, deepening their bonds. But just when it seemed they were all healing, the atmosphere shifted again. A hidden truth roiled beneath the surface: Mark was Jason's distant cousin. As the revelation broke, disbelief washed over Samantha, sharp and cutting. How could he be tied to the pain she just endured? With emotions swirling, she faced the weight of betrayal anew while Mark wrestled with the ghosts of family disputes that had trailed him for years. Samantha stood at a crossroads, fear battling with the spark of understanding. Could she see Mark for the kind-hearted man he was, or would the shadows of his family ties overshadow everything? The townsfolk held their breath, aware that the path to healing was fraught with uncertainty. Would love, forged in the chaos of heartbreak, rise again? Or would this moment prove that forgiveness was harder to come by than expected? As the air crackled with tension, the question lingered: could they transform their shared pain into something beautiful? Samantha stood still, rooted to the ground as a whirlwind of emotions engulfed her. Familiar faces surrounded her, yet they felt distant, almost like shadows. Every glance, every whisper from the crowd pulled her deeper into confusion. Mark's presence beside her was steady and grounding, but the revelation stalled her thoughts. A part of her wanted to recoil from him, to run, yet another part, the part that had just tasted the bitterness of abandonment, yearned for connection. "Mark," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "Are you really? How could you not tell me?" He looked deeply into her eyes, and she could see a flicker of hurt hidden behind his rugged exterior. "I didn't know how," he answered, his voice low and steady. "I wanted to be here for you. I thought this was your day." "But your family," she began, then hesitated. "It was messy, entangled in family strife. How was it fair to lash out at him for someone else's choices? The townsfolk were still watching, their breaths caught in their throats, creating an almost tangible tension in the air. It felt like they were balancing on the edge, waiting to see if this story could still end in a way they could all rejoice in. Maybe it doesn't have to define us, Mark said, inching closer. I may be related to him, but I'm not him. I'm not part of that chaos. Her heart wavered as she took in his words. Could she really separate him from Jason? Jason, who was everything she thought she wanted. But in truth, he had shown her nothing but uncertainty today. Maybe I don't know, she stammered, emotions crashing over her with unpredictable force. You've seen me at my worst, in my moments of despair, but I've only seen you as an outcast. Why would I trust anything about you? Samantha watched as Mark seemed to steel himself, swallowing down whatever storm raged within him. Because I chose to be here today, he said softly, for you. Not because of my family, but because I believe in you. I see your strength, your potential to rise from this. With each word, the conviction in his voice began to mend the rift of doubt within her. The townsfolk observed, their murmurs now transforming into affirmations of support. Let your heart lead you, one of the older women called out. Love can surprise us in the most unexpected ways. Samantha's heart fluttered, feeling slightly more brave. Could love really be reborn amid pain and betrayal? Could she allow herself to be seen with Mark, a man flung into her life at the very moment she thought all hope was lost? Just as she opened her mouth to respond, the chapel doors swung open, drawing the collective gaze of everyone inside. In stepped a figure that made her breath hitch. Jason. He stood there, coat rumpled, hair tousled, an expression of regret and desperation painted across his face. The atmosphere shifted again, crackling with tension thicker than the air itself. What have I missed? Jason's voice rang out, striking a nerve of uncertainty as he stepped closer, pulling everyone's focus from one abandoned bride to the boy who had left her at the altar. Samantha felt her heartbeat race, torn between the temptation to run to him, to seek some closure, and the reality that her life had already been pushed onto a different path. Caught in this whirlwind of emotion, she turned to Mark, whose eyes reflected both concern and challenge. The question hung in the air, how would she navigate this moment of truth? Could past wounds find healing in the present, or would the threads of betrayal and love weave a tapestry too complex to unravel? Samantha's heart drummed against her chest as Jason approached, the crowd parting like waves. Each step he took felt like a weight added to her uncertainty. She felt exposed, caught between the warmth of Mark's presence and the shadow of Jason's familiar touch. Sam. Jason's voice was softer now, almost pleading. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I lost my way. He looked as if he had walked through a storm, desperate to bridge the chasm his actions had created. Lost your way? She echoed, the bitterness spilling into her words. You missed our wedding, Jason. The life we were supposed to start together. Her frustration ignited. She had rehearsed these lines in her mind countless times, yet now they felt hollow, resounding with unresolved anger. Mark shifted beside her, the tension in his posture barely contained. Samantha felt the urge to reach for his hand, to seek that connection again, but she couldn't tear her gaze away from Jason. Please, Jason continued, his eyes glistening with emotion. Just let me explain. I was scared things were moving too fast. I thought I needed time, but the truth is, I only froze because I was afraid of losing you. The murmurs from the townsfolk grew louder, their whispered judgments fell around her like unsolicited confetti. She could feel their eyes heavy with expectation, disappointment, and a sprinkle of curiosity. What do you want from me? Samantha snapped, stepping out of Mark's shadow. You made your choice, Jason. You left me. She could hear the hitch in her voice, every syllable punctuated with a simmering hurt. I can't change the past, he said, desperation creeping into his tone. But I can change what happens next. I love you, Samantha. There's still time. The words hung in the air, heavy and pulsing with possibility. But deep down, she felt a stirring, an ember of realization igniting in her chest. The love she once believed was so solid had started to feel thin, like sugar spun too fine. Mark stepped forward, a protective instinct shining in his eyes. You can't just waltz back into her life and expect her to forget what you did. Love isn't just about words, it's about actions. The sentiment drifted through the crowd, echoing the unspoken truths they all shared. It took courage to stand at the heart of it all in this moment. The room buzzed in agreement, and Samantha could see nods of support among familiar faces. With every ounce of her emotional strength, she faced Jason directly. You left me at the altar. I was in a place where all I wanted was to be seen, to be loved for who I am. Those moments of love don't go away, but they can change. Jason's face fell. I can be the man you deserve, Sam. Give me a chance. But she could see it now, a gap between them wider than the horizon. The trust had been broken, the foundation had crumbled, and she felt anchored in the promise of something new growing beside Mark. Mark's quiet presence ignited a quiet thrill, a form of hope that seemed so much more real than the whispers of what could have been. She glanced at him, and the corners of her lips turned upward, momentarily igniting a spark of bravery. The crowd was still, hanging on to every word. Samantha opened her mouth, ready to reject Jason's plea decisively, but the air shifted again. Footsteps echoed down the aisle, and an unexpected figure burst into view, her mother, eyes gleaming with tears and determination. Sam. There's something I need to tell you. With a rush of conflicting emotions flooding her chest, Samantha felt her heart race once more. What now? Could the answers wrapped in unresolved threads finally start to come untangled? Samantha's breath caught in her throat as her mother made her way through the crowd. She hadn't expected to see her here, especially at a moment like this. The hushed whispers faded into a distant murmur as her mother's capable presence filled the space around them. Mom? Samantha's voice trembled, a mix of fear and curiosity coloring her words. What could be so urgent that it had driven her mother to interrupt such a raw moment? I'm here, sweetheart, her mother replied, swallowing a sob. I know this is chaos, but there's something you don't know, something you need to hear. The urgency in her tone sparked a flicker of concern in Samantha's chest. Was she prepared for more surprises today? Jason's eyes darted between Samantha and her mother, confusion painted across his features. Mark stayed vigilant at Samantha's side, ready to defend her if the storm brewing in Jason's eyes shifted once more. Please, Sam, her mother continued, reaching out with trembling hands. I need you to listen. It's about your father and what really happened that day. Samantha's thoughts spiraled, memories flooding her mind. Her father had passed away just before the wedding, and the pain of his absence had been sharp. She felt the shift in the air, a heaviness that threatened to pull her under. What do you mean? You said it was a sudden heart attack. We all mourned together, yes, but, her mother crouched just enough to look Samantha directly in the eyes, her own shimmering with unshed tears. It wasn't just that. He had a secret, a reason he was so distant in those final days. I didn't want you to bear that burden. I thought it was time to protect you. Protect me? Samantha felt the ache of her heart, strained and raw. You've pushed me away. First with Dad's death, and then by letting Jason leave. I can't keep up with your choices. I know. Her mother said, her voice cracking. But this affects everything. It affects Jason, it affects Mark, it affects you. The truth can be freeing, even if it hurts. The crowd was watching, the tension palpable as Samantha struggled to process the cascading emotions. She turned to Jason, who stood still, lost in desperation and regret, and then to Mark, his presence a steadying force amidst the turmoil. What could possibly be worse than losing everything? She asked her mother, her voice barely above a whisper. Her mother hesitated, words bubbling behind her lips as if they were kept in place by invisible chains. You have to know the truth about your father's last months. Who he was really involved with. Samantha felt her heart thud. Involved with? Mom, what are you saying? Suddenly, a gasp rippled through the crowd, everyone leaning in to listen, eyes wide with intrigue. Names spilled forth, leaving Samantha completely bewildered. You mean he? Yes, her mother whispered, the weight of her confession hanging between them like a storm cloud. He was trying to protect you from a family secret that could destroy everything you thought you knew. The words hung, suspended in the air. Samantha's stomach churned. The truth, once revealed, could change everything: her feelings for Jason, her budding romance with Mark, her own identity within this broken circle of love and loss. Samantha's heart raced. Could she afford to uncover the past that her mother had kept hidden? What new surprises might emerge from the shadows? As Jason moved closer, his expression a mix of vulnerability and longing, and Mark watched with uncertainty, Samantha realized she stood at a crossroads. The power to reshape her future was within her grasp, but the cost of the truth might shatter her world all over again. Sam, please, Jason pleaded, as if sensing the shift in her resolve. Let us face this together. But as she opened her mouth to respond, more footsteps echoed, this time sharper and more certain. A figure stepped out from the back of the crowd, someone she never expected to see again. Wait, the stranger called out, you don't know the whole story. Samantha squinted through the sea of faces, her heart hammering in her chest. The stranger's voice stirred something deep within her, a familiarity she couldn't quite place. The crowd shifted, a wave of murmurs crashing around her as people leaned in, curious about the interruption. Who are you? Samantha managed, her voice a mix of confrontation and confusion. The stranger stepped closer. He had sharp features and a weathered expression, one hand shoved deep into his pocket. I'm someone who knows your father, very well, he replied, his tone grave but steady. Something in his eyes flickered with an urgency that demanded attention. Jason's jaw clenched. This isn't the time. His frustration hung in the air like thick fog. But Mark stood still, observing, weighing his options, hoping for clarity in the chaos. The stranger focused on Samantha, his gaze unwavering. You deserve to hear what really happened. What could you possibly know that my mother can't tell me? Samantha felt a rise of anger wash over her, dripping with pain. My whole world is falling apart right now. Your mother is shielding you from the truth, but that truth is more complicated than you think, more dangerous, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. Your dad wasn't just concerned about you, he was involved in something that went far beyond family. The crowd hushed, tension cutting through the air like a knife. Samantha's heart raced as she struggled to process the weight of his words. Could there be more to her father's life than the love and laughter she remembered? It felt impossible. Dangerous? What are you talking about? Samantha asked, frustration lacing her voice. Just tell me. The stranger hesitated, his eyes flickering toward her mother, who stood frozen. There were debts. People who came looking for him. The sort of people you don't want to cross. He kept it from you to protect you. Samantha felt as though the ground was shaking beneath her. Protect me from what? From the fallout, the people he was involved with when he thought he was handling it all on his own, he said, glancing at the anxious crowd. He made choices for your safety, and it cost him everything. Her mother looked wounded, tears spilling down her cheeks. I thought it was for the best. I never wanted to burden you with the truth. What truth? Samantha shouted, the swell of her emotions spilling over. Was it worth it to keep me in the dark? Does this even change anything? The stranger stepped toward her, determined. It changes everything, Samantha. But you need to choose whether to face it or turn away. Ignoring it won't make it go away. You deserve to know the entire story, your father's mistakes, the people he loved, the danger that lingered. It's all intertwined. The crowd was silent now, every eye trained on her like a pressured spring, ready to burst. "Please," Jason urged, stepping closer to Samantha, his voice low and earnest. "If there's something you need to confront, let us do it together. We can face whatever is out there." But Mark's expression had shifted, a shadow of doubt looming. "Maybe some things are better left buried," he warned. Samantha felt pulled in different directions, her heartache battling the gnawing desire for closure. Unraveling the truth could expose her family's flaws and reshape every relationship she held dear. The stranger's presence weighed heavily but offered a lifeline. "Samantha, no matter the outcome, knowing the truth is your right. You're stronger than this moment, and you have people who care about you." As the reality of her choice loomed closer, she took a deep breath, studying the faces around her mother's guilt, Jason's earnestness, Mark's uncertainty, and the stranger's intensity stirring with conviction. Taking a step forward, she steadied her voice. "Okay, tell me everything." Just as the stranger prepared to speak, a piercing shriek cut through the air, pulling everyone's attention. "You're wrong. You can't just." Samantha's heart sank. The turmoil had only just begun. The shriek echoed in Samantha's ears, tangling with her racing thoughts. She turned sharply, heart dropping as she recognized the figure breaking through the crowd. It was Lily, her childhood friend, with tears streaming down her face, her body shaking as she fought against the tide of people. "What do you know?" Lily panted, her eyes wild with a mix of fear and determination. "What does he mean you deserve to know the truth?" Samantha felt her stomach twist. Friends were supposed to trust each other, but here was Lily, challenging the very ground on which her world stood. The crowd ebbed, a collective inhale as they awaited Samantha's response. Samantha blinked, a mixture of confusion and anger bubbling within her. He says my father was involved in something dangerous. Something he hid from me." The air shifted, becoming dense, as whispers began to ripple through the crowd. Lily shook her head, her voice strained. "You can't. You don't know what you're walking into. There are things better left unsaid." "Like what?" Samantha snapped, her patience starting to fray. "What are you protecting me from? More secrets?" The stranger clenched his jaw, watching the emotional exchange unfold. "I can help," he said softly, as if trying to reach them both. "But you've got to trust me." "Trust?" Lily scoffed. "Just some random guy shows up claiming to know your father, and you want her to trust you? Think about this, Sam." Anger flared in Samantha, mixing dangerously with confusion. "You don't get to decide that for me, Lily." "My father," she breathed, trying to rein in her emotions. "My father is gone. If there's something important, I need to know." Lily's face twisted in conflict, torn between loyalty and fear. Samantha could see the flickering doubt in her friend's eyes. "You really want to dive into that? What if the truth hurts?" Before Samantha could answer, the stranger intervened, his voice raspy with urgency. "Painful truths can lead to freedom, Samantha. You have the right to choose the path forward. You must know the whole story." Silence enveloped them as the weight of his words settled in. A flicker of doubt tried to break through her resolve. Could she bear the burden of whatever lay behind that door? Yet the yearning for clarity clashed with the urge to retreat back into the safety of ignorance. "Please, Sam," Jason joined them now, his eyes earnest, filled with concern. "Whatever the truth is, let us face it together." Together. It was a reassuring word, floating in her mind like a lifeline. But what if that together meant facing shadows that should have remained hidden? Lily reached for her, the warmth of her hand contrasting with the overwhelming chill of uncertainty. "I don't want to see you hurt, Sam. But it's your life." Samantha stood at the crossroads of her emotions, a tidal wave of feelings crashing against her. Trust. Pain. Love. Every facet of her existence sparkled in the light, and she felt herself waver, wanting to move forward, yet terrified of where it might lead. "Are you really ready for this?" Mark's voice cut through the silence. "There's no turning back once you step into the truth." Samantha could hear her heart pounding and felt a suffocating urge to scream. What awaited her on this intricate path of revelations? Taking a deep breath, she glanced at each face, her mother's inviting openness, Jason's steadfastness, and the stranger's burning desire to guide her. "Okay," she finally whispered, willpower anchoring her. "Let us find out what really happened." The crowd held its collective breath, anticipation mixing with fear. But before anyone could utter another word, the stranger's phone buzzed violently against his leg, breaking the fragile moment. With urgency seeping into his voice, he turned to Samantha and the others. "I have to warn you, I may not be the only one looking for the truth." Samantha's heart raced. Who else was out there? And would they be ready to face what was coming? Samantha's pulse quickened at the stranger's revelation. The crowd, once an anonymous sea of faces, now felt like a pressure cooker of tension, their collective anxiety crackling in the air. "What do you mean?" she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. The stranger's gaze bore into hers, a mix of urgency and concern flickering in his eyes. "There's more at stake than just your father's past," he said, his tone grave. "People connected to this want to bury the truth deep. You might be in danger just for wanting to know." Lily took a half-step backward, her face paling, while Jason shot an anxious glance at the people gathered around them. It was as if time had stopped, and the world weighed heavily on Samantha's shoulders. "Danger? You mean because of what I find out, or because of who's been watching?" Samantha's voice trembled, reflecting the storm brewing inside her. "Both," he replied firmly. "But it's not just about protecting you. We need to protect everyone you care about. If they find out you're digging into your father's affairs, they could come after you." At that moment, the weight of every decision pressed down on Samantha like an anchor. The possibility of being hunted for the truth felt unreal, but the fire in her stomach told her otherwise. She had to know. More than that, she had to act. "What do we do?" Jason's voice snapped her back to the urgency of the situation. "We can't just stand here. If there's a threat, we need a plan. We need to find your father's old associates. They might hold the keys to what really happened," the stranger replied, his gaze darting around, scanning for potential threats. "But it has to be discreet. If we make any noise, we alert those watching us." Lily's hands trembled in front of her. "Sam, this is insane. We can't just go off on some wild quest to uncover the past. For all we know, it could lead to something terrible." "Samantha," the stranger interjected, his tone soothing but firm. "You've already chosen. The truth is inside you, it begs to be set free. We can do this together, but only if you're willing to take the risk." Taking a deep breath, Samantha felt the familiar surge of determination wash over her. It felt like stepping off a cliff into unknown waters. "Then let us do it," she said, her voice steady. "Let us uncover whatever we have to." The crowd resumed its buzzing, whispers rippling through the air as if everyone was recalibrating to this new reality. There was no turning back now. But just as Samantha thought they had resolved to act, a sudden commotion at the edge of the crowd made her heart race again. She turned instinctively, seeing several figures pushing through, their urgency prickling the air. "Sam!" one of them shouted. It was her mother. Her face was flushed with panic, her eyes wide with fear. "You need to come home now. It's not safe out here." Samantha felt every ounce of resolve swell within her, conflicting with a new wave of dread. What new danger awaited her at home? How far down this rabbit hole was she willing to go? As her mother approached, desperation etched on her face, Samantha could only wonder, was the truth worth the peril it might bring to everyone she loved? And who were the people closing in on them with dark intentions? The shadows of the past began to loom larger, and the clock was ticking. Would she uncover the reality or plunge into deeper darkness? Samantha felt a chill run down her spine as her mother reached her, breathless and frantic. The crowd's noise faded into a dull roar, eclipsed by her mother's urgent plea. "Sam, we don't have time. Trust me, we need to get out of here. Now." "Mom, what's wrong?" Samantha's heart raced. She scanned her surroundings, searching for any sign of the threat that had her mother so frightened. The stranger beside her wore a grim expression, his eyes narrowing as he assessed the situation. Her mother clasped Samantha's shoulders tightly, searching her face for reassurance. "I don't know how they found out, but I saw them. We need to leave before she could finish her thought. Instinct pulled Samantha toward the stranger. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice wavering between fear and determination. "Stick together," he said, stepping closer. "There's a safe route through the alley behind the market. We can make it there without being seen." Jason moved toward them, his voice urgent. "We can't just run. What about the others? Are we just going to leave and hope for the best?" "There's no time," her mother insisted, her voice tight with fear. "We need to get to a safe place. We can't risk staying here any longer." Samantha felt the pressure building inside her, torn between wanting to protect her family and the burning need to confront her father's past. But as shouts echoed closer, she made the choice that felt right. "Let us go. We stick together." The small group moved quickly, weaving through the throngs of people. Each hesitant footfall echoed in Samantha's mind, mingling with the fear gripping her heart. She could sense the eyes upon them, the lurking figures that seemed to gather strength from the whispers of chaos. As they rounded a corner, her mother pulled her back suddenly. "Sam, stay close," grasping her wrist with a tight hold that spoke volumes. At that moment, the stranger glanced back, eyes wide. "Wait!" he shouted. But it was too late. A figure emerged from the gathering dusk, a tall man with a sinister grin that sent shivers down Samantha's spine. "Going somewhere?" he called, his voice smooth like silk but laced with malice. Samantha's breath caught in her throat. "Run!" the stranger yelled, guiding them to a narrow alleyway. Heart pounding, Samantha sprinted after him, the sound of footsteps racing behind them. They hurtled down the alley, the narrow walls closing them in like a tunnel of panic. Fear fueled her legs as she dashed past garbage cans and discarded crates, her mother's presence a steady anchor beside her. But a quick glance back told her they were being pursued. The man from the crowd was gaining on them, his steps heavy and relentless. Just when Samantha thought she couldn't bear the weight of fear any longer, she felt something solid beneath her foot, a pipe or something slick, she couldn't tell. She lost her balance for a moment, but Jason caught her arm, pulling her back just in time. "Focus. We can't stop." Samantha's mind raced. What had she gotten them into? She needed to understand the connection to her father, but right now, all that mattered was escaping the darkness closing in. "Turn left up ahead," the stranger urged, and without hesitation, they followed his command, barreling into the next street. But as they broke into the open, the relief was short-lived. The man had followers, more shadows tightening around them like a noose. "Mom!" Samantha cried, spotting her mother stumbling as the chaos erupted, only to be caught by Jason, who pushed her forward with a desperate look. Then, with a sudden flicker of hope, the stranger shouted, "In here," directing them towards an old, battered door tucked away beside a dimly lit facade. As they rushed inside, Samantha couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. What lay ahead, and how deep into the mire of her father's past would they have to plunge to find safety? With the door swinging shut behind them, Samantha's heart pounded, bracing for whatever darkness came next. Would the truth she sought be the light they needed, or would it only deepen the shadows, threatening to consume them all? The moment the door slammed shut, a thick silence enveloped them, muffling the chaotic sounds from outside. Samantha leaned against the wall, breathless, her heart thudding like a drum in her chest. The dim back room was narrow, filled with the scent of old wood and dust, and a single flickering bulb cast eerie shadows on the walls. "Is everyone okay?" Her mother's voice trembled, eyes darting around, trying to gauge their surroundings. Jason was by her side, his brow furrowed in concern. "We need to barricade that door," he said, glancing back at the door they had just rushed through as if expecting it to burst open any second. The stranger, still looking intently at the door, shook his head slightly. "No time for that. We can't hide here. They'll find us." He paused, looking around the cramped space filled with forgotten boxes and crates. "But we can use this to our advantage. There's a hidden exit." "Where?" Samantha asked, her voice barely a whisper. He pointed to a small trapdoor in the corner of the room, almost blending into the floor. "But it's risky. We'd have to trust each other completely. Once we go down there, it leads to the old sewer system. It's dirty, but it's our best chance to escape unnoticed." The thought of descending into darkness made Samantha's stomach twist. "What if it doesn't lead us anywhere safe?" She protested, glancing from her mother to Jason, searching for any sign of agreement. "Do you have a better idea?" Her mother replied, her tone a mix of desperation and resolve. "We can't afford to hesitate." Samantha felt the weight of her choices, the anxiety threatening to pull her under. She wanted to know what her father had to do with this, and she needed answers. But it dawned on her that those answers could cost them their safety. "All right," she said, rallying her scattered thoughts. "Let us go." As they moved toward the trapdoor, the stranger placed his hand on her shoulder. "I'll go first, but I need you to stay close. No matter what you hear, don't let go of each other's hands." With a small nod, Samantha braced herself as he lifted the trapdoor, and a wave of musty air hit her. Darkness stretched below, with only the faintest hint of light in the distance. One by one, they descended, their feet landing on damp ground. The stranger held a small flashlight, the beam slicing through the abyss, revealing walls covered in grime and the remnants of old pipes. "I can't believe we're doing this," Jason muttered, shivers trailing down his spine as they moved deeper into the darkness. "Better than out there," Samantha replied, glancing back with her heart pounding, half expecting someone to leap from the shadows. But as they journeyed further, the emotions began to swirl around them: fear, curiosity, anticipation. Each step echoed, reminding them of the danger still looming above. The atmosphere was thick with uncertainty, and Samantha felt the tenacity of hope creeping in as well. "What if we end up lost?" Jason asked, wiping sweat from his forehead with trembling hands. "It doesn't matter where we end up," the stranger said, his voice steady. "What matters is sticking together and finding a way to break free of this nightmare." In that moment, Samantha felt a flicker of faith ignite within her. They were not just running anymore, they were fighting. They were standing firm against a past they didn't understand yet. As they continued into the labyrinth of tunnels, the heavy silence made each heartbeat resonate. Would they find a way out? Would Samantha finally uncover the truth about her father? And what was the stranger's true connection to all of this? A gut feeling told her that the answers waited just ahead. But would they be the ones she longed for, or ones that might change everything? With that thought hanging in the damp air, the oppressive darkness shifted, and Samantha could almost sense the weight of their next choice looming ahead. Samantha felt the weight of darkness pressing in as they continued down the narrow tunnel, each corner twisting and turning into another unsure moment. As they moved through the sewer's depth, she could sense the fear in her mother, the tension in Jason, and the quiet resolve in the stranger. It filled the air, thick like fog, swirling with unspoken words and hidden truths. "Where does this lead?" Samantha asked, breaking the silence. The stranger, always 2 steps ahead, flicked his flashlight beam toward a jagged wall, water dripping softly, giving it a life of its own. To a service exit near the river. It's old, but it should take us far away from here, he replied, his voice steady, echoing against the damp walls. I can't believe my life has come to this, Jason breathed, looking over his shoulder nervously. Stuck in a sewer with a bunch of secrets and danger following us. Welcome to my reality, Samantha said, forcing a smile. But a ripple of laughter among the darkness broke the moment, a shared moment of relief amidst chaos. Before long, they came to a fork in the path, the beam of light revealing two options left and right. The tunnel felt like a metaphor, a choice point of two lives. One path led to the uncertain past, and the other toward a fragile hope. Which way? Her mother asked, the fear lacing her voice. Let's try left, the stranger suggested, heartening those around him with a sense of direction. I think it leads closer to the river. With a collective nod, they veered left, determined to embrace the uncertainty together, hands intertwined, hearts pulsing in unison. The tunnel twisted deeper into a claustrophobic space, the air thick and musty, pressing against their skin. They hurried, the sound of dripping water punctuating their anxious breaths. As they stepped cautiously, Samantha couldn't shake the sense of dread creeping in. What would they find on the other side? Would the truth about her father unravel their already fragile bonds? The passageway widened, revealing a small chamber lit by the faint glow of the outside world seeping through broken grates. The walls were slick with moisture, but it felt like a sanctuary, temporary safety wrapped in uncertainty. Are we closer? Her mother asked, her voice trembling. Just a little further, the stranger said, hope resonating in his tone. We're almost there, I can sense it. And just as he spoke, a sudden noise ricocheted behind them, a loud crash, followed by muffled voices. Panic surged like a rising tide. Run! The stranger shouted, leading them toward the faint light, urgency spilling from his words. They sprinted through the chamber, Samantha's heart pounding in sync with their footsteps. As they reached the broken grates, sunlight poured in, a blinding reminder of hope just beyond their grasp. We can make it. Samantha called, arms stretching toward freedom, but just as they approached, the voices grew louder, pursuing shadows threatening to engulf them from behind. Jason pulled Samantha back, his grip secure. We can't stop now. We're too close. Lily reached for her, the camaraderie fueling her determination to push through. With one last surge, the group leaped through the grates and tumbled into the sunlight. The world outside felt surreal, the rushing river glittered, the sun warm against their cold skin, and the sweet scent of freedom filled their lungs. But it was short-lived. Behind them, shouts echoed, footsteps pounding against the ground as figures emerged from the shadows. It was now or never. Keep running. The stranger urged, gesturing toward the tree line just beyond the riverbank. They dashed toward the trees, the adrenaline tarnishing their fears as they pushed forward, each step feeling both freeing and dangerous. Finally, they reached the trees, enveloping them in nature's protective embrace. Except the safety was fleeting, exclamations and angry voices crept closer, and Samantha felt the burning urgency pushing her to continue, not looking back. Where do we go from here? Her mother panted, glancing nervously at the chaos behind them. Follow me. The stranger insisted. I know a safe place nearby. We'll reflect on what we know, and then we'll figure out the rest together. Samantha looked at Jason, his worry palpable, and then at the stranger. In that moment, surrounded by trees swaying gently above them, the weight of her father's shadow began to lift. Maybe they could face whatever truth lingered in the past and walk into a brighter future on their own terms. With resolve born from their struggle, she nodded, taking a breath, and stepped forward, heart alight with newfound strength. Let us go. As they disappeared further into the trees, voices trailing behind them faded into the distance, revealing the path ahead, a path filled with resolve to uncover the truth no matter the cost. They were stronger together, ready to face whatever lay ahead. This was their chance. A moment for transformation, where the bonds of love and loyalty could redefine how they formed their future. And it all started now. If you're resonating with this journey, make sure to subscribe immediately to the channel. You need to be the first to catch the next exclusive stories. And hey, leave a like now to fuel this adventure. Every click counts to keep the momentum alive. Comment down below with your thoughts on this wild ride. What surprised you the most? And for the true fans out there, this is the moment to show your support. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the word. Let us create a community ready to face the truth, together.